When Israel bombs nuclear reactors and other strategic nuclear facilities, the United States sees no threat of a global nuclear war and openly supports Israel's actions, despite the fact that such actions put US troops at serious risk, as Iran threatens to strike them in response. In addition, North Korea and Pakistan, nuclear countries, support Iran and may enter the war. But when Ukraine precisely and skillfully destroys aircraft or energy infrastructure in Moscow, we are immediately told that we are bringing the world closer to nuclear war or World War III. Double standards are, of course, a classic feature of geopolitics, but we can see that the world's leading countries are unable to properly and fully grasp other key aspects of geopolitical strategy. 20,000 interceptor missiles that were intended for Ukraine were given by the United States to Israel. The United States, Great Britain and France helped Israel in the fight against Iranian attacks rocket strikes. At the same time, from the front line in Ukraine to the capital of Poland, Warsaw, is only 1,200 kilometers. That is approximately 18 hours of driving by car. 1,700 kilometers from the front line to Berlin. That's approximately 25 hours of driving by car. And 2,500 kilometers from the front line to Paris. That is 1.5 days of driving by car. The distance from the combat zone to European countries is not that big, and it's shrinking with each passing day. Moscovian drones and missiles have already even entered the territory of other European countries, NATO countries, and there was no help in air defense for Ukraine, no help in shooting down these drones and missiles. This happens while from 300 to 400 or 500 Shahed drones are flying at Ukraine almost every night, when Israel was at most targeted by up to 100 drones. And besides the daily attacks, Ukraine is in direct contact with enemy armed forces. Israel is not. The approach of the front line to the borders of European Union and the capitals of its countries directly depends on whether Ukraine has enough or not enough weapons. These are not toys in the kindergarten that children couldn't share. These are serious interstate agreements. And when your allies betray you so easily and break their promises, what kind of agreements with the enemy can we even talk about? Ukraine is the major miscalculation of the USA and the European Union in foreign policy and globally in geopolitical influence and world leadership. If you like content, if you want more videos, you can support this channel with PayPal or other options info in bio. It will be very nice for me, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel. The question of influence in the Middle East, for which Israel is a tool, fascinates Trump so much because it's a relatively simple task. To oppose underdeveloped countries largely by the hands of Israel, plus to use the resources of the Middle East, this is a very profitable path. A small victorious war, as is known, is the main tool of dictators to hold on to power for decades. It seems Trump saw in the war with Iran exactly this option for himself. Little effort and a decent result to show electorate and to maintain the illusion of a superpower and global leadership. Another matter is Ukraine. The independence and sovereignty of Ukraine and its belonging to the civilized world is stability in Europe directly. It is protection of Europe. And it's a major level of influence in Eurasia, which the leaders of the USA cannot understand, or they do understand, but are afraid to support fully, because here the fight for this stability is not with weak countries, but with aggressive Moscow. The USA chose the position of perceiving the countries of the post-Soviet space as something that belongs to the successor of communist terror. But what defines a world leader is exactly the influence in regions and the courage to gain it. In general, everything is very interconnected. To stop Iran, it's necessary to stop Moscow, which actively supports and sponsors the development of Iran's nuclear program. Moscow sends its engineers, scientists, helps build the infrastructure and organize all processes for creating nuclear weapons. So the attempt to prevent Iran from obtaining nuclear weapons looks rather ridiculous, while turning a blind eye to the main terrorist country that already has this weapon. The war between Israel and Iran is based on the exchange of missiles and attack drones. The countries do not share a common border, so full-scale military intervention by one country into the other is practically impossible. Iran follows the tactics of Moscow both in negotiations and in military actions. It places its missile systems in residential neighborhoods of the Iranian capital, using civilians as cover. They also launches missiles at peaceful neighborhoods in Israel, identical to how Moscow sends Shahed drones into apartment buildings where ordinary Ukrainian families and children live. But still, our wars are different. We are dealing with active aggression being committed against us. Israel, on the other hand, in case of Iran, was the one to start so-called preventive actions, saying that there is no more time for diplomacy, and they were not forced, like Ukraine, to negotiate until the very last moment. So why is Israel allowed to do what others are not? Israel is a leading exporter of high-tech products, security systems, and cyber weapons. Many countries have profitable defense and technology contracts with Israeli companies. In particular, nuclear countries such as the USA, France, and Great Britain have multi-million-dollar contracts both for import and export with Israel. This includes cooperation with Israeli companies such as Elbit Systems, Israel Aerospace Industries, Rafael Advanced Defense Systems, and others. Israel also has strong lobbying power both in the US Congress and in the governments of many other countries. Israel is regarded as a strategic outpost of the West in the Middle East, particularly in the effort to deter Iran, Hezbollah, and other anti-Western forces. The countries that support Israel see it as a way to reinforce their own influence in the region, making a fatal mistake by prioritizing this region as the most important and ignoring the main threat to the world order and peace in Europe.